Hey everyone, I just started with a live, and like yesterday, um, only the counter, I mean my countertop is going to be seen in the live, right? I just wait for a few of you to join in the live. So I just posted the the tools and materials needed, right? This is the one that I made yesterday, which I had posted. So that's the inspiration picture that I had printed out. Now let me explain now basically how do we start and all that. But I just gone through a couple of you commenting on my voice was not audible, but I'm just standing very close to the device, which is the mobile from which the live is happening. I mean, is my voice like really not audible? How was it like yesterday? So if one of you could comment on it, I'll just see if I have to like really kind of raise my voice and talk as we do. So okay, so a few of you have started joining in. Okay, so see that is a cake board basically, right? And that's the fondant that I've covered on the cake board, and that's painted and it's all dry. Okay, so it's a fondant layer. What I have here is a rolled out fondant sheet. Basically I don't want to do it on a dummy, or that will be consuming all the time, and for right now this is convenient for me because I'm going live um, with both the Instagram and the Facebook to get the angle right. This top view works good for me. So whatever I am going to do on the top of the counter, which is like on a flat surface, um, sometimes I have people asking me like how would we do it if it is a cake, like your surface will be like this, right? And you would be going on painting like that. I mean, it is actually not really different, except that you need to be changing the angle in which you are going to hold your brush. And say suppose if your eyes are not in the level of that cake where you need to start painting on the sides, then one thing you need to consider is to lift the height of the cake that you're working. Or maybe you can just have a taller box or something which has a flat lid and put your cake on top of that. So ideally you want to have the cake in your eye level, and more so you also need to ensure where your elbow of your hand that you're painting is rested on. And if it's just hanging on outside for a really long time because your cake is like lifted up, then you will start having pain, and you might have to make sure your elbow is rested on somewhere, um, so you could continue on painting for some time. Okay, so what we are going to do is uh, paint on a flat surface. And for you guys also, I don't want you guys to kind of use up a lot of resources at this moment. We're not sure when we are going to get the resources back and all that, with things going very uncertain at the moment. So I would prefer like you guys can just practice on the sheet of fondant. So this one is where I'm just going to show basic strokes and the mixing of the colors and all that. And I also have another board in which I have covered fondant. So this I have just done it to make it look in a proper shape, and because I just want it a little neat. So this one I'm going to replicate here, when depending on how much time we have. How much time I would have taken for this one was like close to 1 hour, yeah. And then I let some layers dry, and I continue to do today morning also, and then I finish the whole thing. I mean, it's not a great painting, but some of the shading and how do we do that and blending of the colors is what I want to show. So I'll show basic strokes here, but this one is not going to have this flower. And once I finish that, I will take this up and then I'll show you how to kind of get an image transferred, and how do you if you don't know to draw, then what are the ideas that you can use. So what I first did is go on the internet to find out what kind of image I'd like to paint. But sometimes when you practice, it is like what kind of image you want to practice. So you have the liberty to go and find what you want to do. During practice, yes, you can do. But what happens when a client sends you an image and then asks you to paint that? Yeah, you need to have a good amount of practice, and then it becomes really very easy. So if you are going to find your own image, or if a client has given you an image, the first thing is to resize it to the size you want. Okay, so now this is not resized, and if I want to transfer this onto this sheet, see, basically this sheet, doesn't fit the entire image, right? So this is not resized. I was not able to do it yesterday. But the first thing is you resize it to the size of the cake. If you want it on the sides, then measure what the circumference and the size of the cake on the sides is. Or if it is on the top, then you might have to resize it to the top size of the cake. And after you resized, you printed. It doesn't have to be in color, because color you generally match it to the color of the actual image through your digital devices, like from the laptop or your phone or the tab or something, but they show the actual color. If you're very particular about the color, what comes in the paper is actually not the right color. But this could be in black and white because you just want the outline to be done. Okay, so what I did here is freehand drawing. You could also transfer the image. If I'm going to try and do the transferring of image, it could take up a lot of time. So right now I will go ahead and do the freehand drawing on that sheet and show you. And while I'm doing, I could maybe give you tips orally on how do you transfer the image as well. Okay, so the first thing is to find an inspiration image. Okay, and I have this palette and some basic brushes. Okay, but depending on if you want to draw some thin lines and all that, then you want the 0 0 0 kind of very thin line ones. And I have a bowl of water. Why? Because I was not having vodka. Usually I use vodka for mixing up the gel colors and thin down for my brushing. I also use Evaporex, but I was not having the stock of both. Also, maybe if you guys want to know what is the other substitute, if there's no vodka, no Evaporex, then yes, water works well. But what really happens when you use water, it doesn't dry up quickly. That is a disadvantage of using water, but it doesn't mean that you cannot even paint with water. You can still paint with water as well. And I thought I will just show you guys about it. Okay, so I'm just going to move this one aside for time being. I just get my palette in. So what are the colors that you can actually use to paint? Basically, gel colors, liquid colors also works, but what happens, they are a bit thin. When you want a thicker stroke, then thicker shade of the stroke, then it doesn't work well. Okay, so I'm just starting to pour gel color, just a drop. That's the orange. Can you use airbrush colors? Yes, you can actually use airbrush colors because they are also closer to liquid colors, not very close technically, but they are also in the liquid form. The airbrush colors are not in the gel color form, right? But what really happens, strokes are easier. You don't have to really mix it up with any liquid or like vodka, Evaporex or water. But if you want to really thin down the color of the liquid colors, then you might have to use water. That is also allowed, which means like if there is a yellow color, liquid color that you want to use, and you add more water to it, or vodka or Evaporex, what really happens is you get the lighter shades of yellow. Adding white gives you a matte finish, but just adding water will give you lighter shades of it, which is not matte. Hope I'm making some sense saying that. Okay, so that is also allowed. And what is the other thing that you can use is petal dusts. Petal dusts are also something that I use. Just want to put These are the basic practice strokes that I want to show you. So I just have green petal dust, and I am adding some black petal dust. Just dropped in some of the black petal dust on the sheet, that doesn't matter. And finally also pastes. This one is gel, okay. These two are petal dusts. That one last thing I'm going to add, that's the paste form. Yeah, it's not, you can't even drop it by itself. You need something to take it out of the box or the container. I mean, it is in the thick paste form. That's a black shade. So which practically means you could use all the different kinds of painting materials, right? Which is gel, petal dust, and can you use chocolate powder colors, and can you use luster colors, and all that question keeps coming up. Well, yes, as long as this whole thing is water based, okay. This mixes with water, water and all, which means vodka. Vodka has some amount of water to it. It's not completely alcohol. But if you are going to use any alcohol only based colors which are available in the market, then you cannot mix and match with one of these. They get coagulated. These ones get coagulated if you are using a pure alcohol material into this. Into the gel color, because they're water based. With this you can add pure alcohol thing, and then they get mixed up and you can paint. But if you're going to use this one and this one together and mix it up with a pure alcohol based color, then you would end up coagulating things. But so I want to keep things simple, so I do not bring in the pure alcohol based stuffs in any of it. So these are the materials that you can use. I don't have liquid colors, otherwise I would have added some in here to show you what really happens if you can use airbrush colors. I'll see by end of the session. I don't have handy with me, very close to me at the moment. Okay, I'll see by the end of the session if I can get some airbrush colors. I mean, it is just close to being in a liquid form, and then you can use your brush to make the stroke. So so it's all there clear, right? Okay, and so some water is there. So what you can actually do, let me just grab this, pour a little water into this part. So now and then I might have to kind of mix. I just poured water in here. I might also have to wash my brush in between when I have to switch between the colors. So what I do is what I'm going to tell you. So sometimes what happens, you can add the water or vodka. So now I'm just going to use the term water because that is what I have here with me right now. And it also means vodka, it also means evaporates. Those are the substitutes that you can use when you're doing it. I'm not going to say it all the time like vodka, evaporates or water. I say water, then you can use any of the three, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now if I add water to it and make a complete paste of the whole thing, then if I want a little more thicker, then I keep adding more powder to it, and then finally I just need a little bit of it, and I'm just trying to get the consistency what I want, and I'm wasting a lot of powder in it. So what I generally do, I just dip my brush in water, I just go to one part of it, I just keep mixing. I see if it is really thin or if I want it to be thick. If it has gotten thicker, then I touch up a little bit of water, go on here and see if I have the right consistency that I am looking at. Okay, so now I'll just rip excess. I'll just try and see if I'm able to make a stroke. And this is the color I'm looking at. I'm just testing. Okay, so maybe is my brush going about freely? So when do you know that you need to thin down the color a bit? What really happens, your brush gets a little drier. I'm just finding for the right words to say. Okay, so what really happens when you're trying to make a longer stroke, it just ends there. Okay, so now you're just trying to do this. Actually the stroke is better now. So what really happens, it just ends. You should be able to kind of let the flow go on, which means you're good to go. So what really happens now, there is a powder here. I'm just adding a little bit of water to it, this part. Okay, so this area is kind of thicker, right? I'll just do it here. So that is the thicker part, which is like there isn't enough liquid. You see this part has good amount of liquid, right? But here the liquid is not enough. It's the petal dust. Okay, so now with this, if I'm trying to make a stroke, you get here, the stroke doesn't happen freely. The brush doesn't give you the color like the way you want, which means this much of water is not enough. So what do? Then touch your brush again, go back to the same place. I mean, you don't have to really add the color, but that area is thick, it is dry. So you just thin it down with some water to it. And now test if your brush strokes are happening freely. It just goes on, right? So it is not stuck like that. So now you decide whether this is the color you want. So now you should be able to freely paint. And say suppose when you're doing that, there's a darker shade here which just got off by itself. Say suppose there's some dark spots here which are dried up like that, okay, and you want to remove it off, or you want to lighten it. So what do? If you're going to put the same light shade on top of it, then the entire place gets a little more darker because there are some lighter areas here. So what do? You can just clean up your brush. A little bit of the same color lying down there is fine, and with that water touching up of little bit of water, go back to the same place and keep using your strokes and the darker colors, just kind of wiping off any excess dark colors that you have. So what if you've made a mistake, like you used a darker shade of the color that you want to remove it off? And so when you're doing that, see the probability of taking out the top layer of the fondant and making it kind of gummy and sticky and all is there, mostly because it is water. Vodka will be, and vodka and evaporex, they both work equally well. And if you see that you are just kind of fiddling with that top sticky surface of the fondant, then you need to consider letting it dry for some time and then come back and do your strokes. Okay, so the other thing is, say suppose these are the black spots that were made, and it was a mistake. So what do you do to correct the mistakes? You kind of wash the brush, okay, and go on top of it. You can use your fingers or you can use wet tissues. Or a clean thin towel. So just kind of, and you want to let that moisture thing dry off. Just spread out the color, because I was having the black dots of the color in my finger as well. So if I want to just remove off this black spot there, I use excess water on top of it and then keep blending and it goes. Okay, so now I have this one color of the green, right? And now I don't have different shades of the green. So what do? So to have different colors, the darker colors from one color that you have is to use black. The general thing is to use black. So I'm just going to go use the petal dust itself, just a little bit. You saw what I did. I just touched the tip of the brush, went down there, and I'm going to mix up green, and just find if I have the right shade of the green that I'm looking at. It has to be a little darker than what it is here. I just want a little more green. So what happens if it is like kind of getting blackish and you want more of the green shade, then add more black to it. So the color of the green actually changes, if you can see. And now you decide whether it needs more water, if it is too dry, or if it is too thin. If it is too thin, you add more of the color. So we just see if this is kind of having the darker shade of the green. I'm just adding on top of it. No, it looks like it is a little darker. That's some basic leaf thing. I'm just kind of scribbling right now to see how the shade works. Should I need a little more darker shade? Yes. So what happens if you don't have black petal dust? Then you use the paste is what we added there, right? Some more green on the petal dust. So I'm just going to show you what happens if you mix the paste of the black here with the petal dust, and I'll just darken that out. So now you see the petal dust and the paste mixes up with water, and it forms a new color as well. So which means if you don't have a black gel and you wanna change the shade of whatever you have, then if you have black petal dust, that will work good as well. Okay, so now these are the two shades, light green and the dark green, using the one green color that you have. Okay, so now let me just show you how to lighten the shades. So that will be orange. So this one was petal dust, you cannot use it directly, and paste is kind of too thick for you to make your strokes directly, and liquid colors you can use your strokes directly. When these are gel colors, you see how they look. You can actually use them directly. I mean, paste colors, well, if you want to paint on the eyes and all that, you can. Okay, so now for a thicker stroke, if you want a very dark lines and stroke, you can actually use the gel colors, but you might have to use up quite a bit of the color. And are you able to get that stroke freely using the gel colors? They get stuck in between, right? Because it doesn't have enough amount of moisture. So what do? And if you see that the darkest thing without mixing any liquid, the color is different from what the color is there, the lighter version. So now I'm just going to touch a bit of water, change the consistency. So I gently touch a little bit, work on only one corner, or I don't mix up the entire gel. I keep the thicker part of the gel in the same cavity, and I just work up on one side of it and see if I'm able to get the stroke. I mean, it looks like the water is still not enough. So what I do, add up and add some more liquid to it, which is water here, and see if I'm able to get the stroke well. This is good enough, right? So this is that orange which has which is just a little water added to that orange. So what if I need a very light orange, lighter than that? So what I do, I add a lot of water. So this is one shade dark. I took it there. I didn't do anything to that because that seems like a lot of orange for me to get a lighter version. So whatever was there in the brush, I've just washed it off here, and there's one version here which is like, that is quite a lot of water, but it will give me a lighter shade of the orange, right? So and this will give you a clearer shade. I mean, it looks clearer. What I mean by clearer, I'll just show you what happens when you're trying to lighten the shade using white. So for white also you have petal dusts, and you also have gel colors as well, right? So let me just pour some white gel there. So now if I want to try and lighten this orange, okay, there's a little bit of water already there in that. I'm touching, I mean, I have added some orange to that white. So now if I'm going to mix it up, are you able to see? So now trying to, usually what we really do, you know, kind of adding white gives you lighter shades, is what it's normal to think like that. So by adding white makes it matte. I just said that when I started off. So we just see what really happens when it becomes matte. It is not clear, but it is a lighter version of orange. I just put next to this one, and now I am not able to get the stroke right. So what do? I put water in it. That gel thing has become too dry or thick for me to make my strokes. It doesn't mean that it is wrong to use white, but you have to know what happens when you use white and what happens when you use just water to dilute the color. So you know when exactly what color that you're trying to look and trying to get in your work, and you have to know when to use water and when to use the white. Just kind of got dry. Can I lighten some more of this shade? Okay, now I got this shade well, but can I lighten it a little more? Yes, you can lighten it. So what do? You add more water to it. So to kind of add more water to it, if I'm going to add more water into this itself, then I will have to add a lot of water here to kind of lighten that shade. So what do? Take this out, put it in another cavity, and add more water here. It could be clearer water that will give you even lighter shade of what you're looking at when this itself is orange. So this one has orange and white and then additionally water. So let's see what happens here. So by adding more water or the liquid element, it kind of not makes it look matte, which is this. So this is that stroke which has white with little water, and this one is white and more water, and this one, you know, this part is this orange. If it is not dried, well, that's how your finger marks are going to be. So this part is just the water with that orange. So you can kind of keep doing the mixing and matching between the colors to figure out what you can do, right? So another one thing that I want to show before I move further, which is like adding some browns, because here this is like what color you want to get and how the strokes are going to be. So you want to be blending the colors, right? If you see, there's a little bit of light yellow here, and then there's some yellow, and then some orange, and then some brown. So how do you basically blend the colors? Okay, so what do? So you be needing 2 to 3 different shades. So let me just take out a little bit of the brown. Brown I have gel also. Right now I may just use the petal dust. So kind of say if I'm just looking at making a petal, I start with a very light shade, but it could have been lighter than that as well. So now say I've just made a darker petal. Now how do I lighten it? Just use water and remove the color from there, which is that's green color. It could be clear, so I don't want, I'm just not happy with that dark shade. So what do? I still keep that orange, but kind of work with the water and remove off the shades. I mean, that way just keep working your strokes to keep in the same way as you'd like to do your petal. Okay, so now a little more darker version, you see that, right? A little more darker version of that orange. Say suppose I am just trying to work on here alone, I just add it there. I don't do it to the entire thing, and say maybe on one side alone I just leave it. Okay, and then wash my brush off, and now blend this up with the water by keeping the darker shade to one side of the petal only and the bottom, and don't bring that entire thing all over. Once it dries up, you will be able to kind of smoothen out the texture, but still as you're working kind of retain the strokes, make the strokes a little neater. So this one side is just getting a little darker. So what really happens when you paint flowers, basically light falls on from one side, so whichever side the light falls on, you have the petals lighter on that side. So the lightermost shade was that whole thing that we did to the entire petal, and that one shade darker we just started off here at the bottom of the petal, went on one side of the petal, which is the darker side of the petal, because the other side the sun is falling and it is going to be lighter. So this is the second shade. The third shade, what I want to do, I want to add brown. So would I do the brown directly, or would I want to mix some brown with the orange? If I mix that brown with that orange, what really happens, it gets to the nearest shade of whatever is already there, and it doesn't give a shock of the color here. Well, you can do that, but it is better to kind of start off with a slightly different, a little closer tone to the petal color that is already there. So you go like one layer by layer. Okay, that's all. So don't add too much. If you add, you can still remove, so that's not a problem. So kind of blend that. So there is that little bit of brown, and that darker orange is here, and that lighter most thing is here. It's just one petal I'm just showing, and now we'll move on to the actual thing. And now I will just use, this is kind of little thicker only, now I'll kind of use that. And right now, because it is also water, if I just try and use any liquid form, it is just going to spread. So what basically we can do is kind of wait for it to dry, or I'll just turn over. I'll get back to that and see, and just turn over. So this is kind of dried up. Okay, so now if I add a darker shade here, the bottom is already dried out, right? And I add the darker shade there, wipe off any excess color lying in the brush, and kind of blend it. You don't want it, so if I'm just going to put the stroke all the way till there, then the brown is going to go all the way up there, which I don't want to do. You want some more browns. I'm hoping that this is not dried up, but let me see, because it's better I showed here. Showing somewhere else could be a little confusing. Okay, so that's the darker one. That looks a little dry, so I'm just touching up a little bit of water. So that much is like, it could be too much, so I immediately took it off and wiped off the brush. If there's excess moisture in the brush, you just need to wipe off the brush as well. Keep a tissue. So you kind of get to see different shades. That's the only thing that matters. But it doesn't have to be like really perfect. And this one petal is also like not really perfect. But the only thing is you have to try practicing the shading. And you be the better judge for what you're doing. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not a great artist as well. But I just work on techniques to just make it look good at the end. So we at least know it looks good or not at the end. And that's why even if you're not great artists, I am that one example. You don't have to be like really great artist to get on top and do some painting on the cake. So now here it's all dark. No, we went from the lighter shade and then all to the darker shade. Now I just want to have a little more of orange here where I started. That's the darker shade. I'm just going on everywhere where I have orange. So if we have lost enough orange on the petal and it just made it like really dark, you go back and then touch some orange. And once it dries, what you can really do is to put white here where you were expecting to have some sunlight. But now I'm going to do here without it drying, but ideally what you need to do is you need to let it dry. Now this happens because there's a lot of water. So you want to touch up a little bit of white wherever you think the lighter shade is there. Okay, so I'm just going to let this one dry. Okay, and I'm going to show me. It doesn't look really great when I'm watching it through the camera. It could blend a little more. I'm also going to just kind of wipe off excess water. Just use my brush strokes. I mean, you could actually, kind of do kid-like painting also, doesn't matter. But as long as you try it out, I mean, first of all, don't get overwhelmed with, all these shading and different colors, blending and all that I'm doing. Okay. It's just that it's as good as kids painting with watercolor on your art books or paper. That's all. So now you see, it's that color starts from the lightermost thing and then it slowly goes up till the darker, and that we did it using the brush strokes itself. Okay, so I'm going to let this one dry. We'll get back at the end of the session. We'll see if this one has dried or not. Now I open this part, which is the the board in which I've covered fondant, which I explained at the beginning of the live. So what really happens, I'll also keep this one here. If it is that, if it doesn't mean when you have to do, you need to have this to copy, but if you have a printout of whatever image you want to copy, you can have this right in front of you. But you can see I just kind of done improvisations because it kind of looked too empty here, so I kind of added another set of branch there. So when you are actually doing it, even on the cake, it is okay to use a pencil to do the outline of what you want. That little bit of having pencil and drawing what you want is actually okay. You can use your Dresden tool to do, but if you if you think like, no, I am not going to use paints at all, pencil at all, and it's like something that you don't want to do, it doesn't matter. But what you can do is immediately you drape the cake with fondant when the fondant is really soft. That time only use your Dresden tool to mark the outline of what you want to paint. If you are a freehand painter, you can go ahead without the outline. But this is for people who think that they need some guided outline to start with your painting. And now if I want to use Dresden on top of this, it may not work. Should you try? Let me see. I mean, I'm not actually purposely doing it really very light. I'm kind of doing it really hard, okay? But you can't see why, because I covered this board like yesterday, and it's dried up. So if you want to use Dresden tool, then you don't let it dry. You mark the outline immediately after it's draped. And if you want to use pencil, then you need to drape it and then let it dry for 8 hours. For it to dry up only, then you can use pencil strokes. Why? Because if the fondant is soft and you're trying to use pencil on top of it, what happens, it kind of tears up the fondant, right? So I may not be doing the entire thing, but depending on how much time we have, I mean, it doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter. What basically happens is, it's like too much of painting the same thing over and over again for you to watch. I'm not sure how interesting it is going to be. So I'm actually looking at that. I'm kind of changing a little bit as well. So there's one drawback of using the pencil. If you want to keep it like really pastel shade, the pencil lines will be seen. But what I've done there is kind of get a darker outline throughout. So I just keep it as simple like in this one. Now basically I need some yellow. Kind of spoils the entire palette. Pour in some yellows. I have some browns. So I'll move this one and put the palette here. I'll wash and get some fresh water. Okay, so as I said, see, this is the yellow that I poured now. It's not orange, it's yellow. So that is kind of in the liquid state. I mean, that's an old amari color. It's supposed to be gel, but it's kind of old. Soft gel paste amari color is what I've used there. So now what I want to do, the first thing is kind of cover up the entire petal, and now you see, now whatever on the basics that I've explained, the brush kind of doesn't move freely. So what I want just a drop of water. Is the water seen there? I'm just touching up some water. It'll give me the lighter shade of the yellow. I'll do one flower first. So that's the yellow. Okay. So I am just trying to avoid a lot of water to start with, because now if you're going to add more color, I also want to use, that's the vortex brown, which is like close to brown. Let me just so that's what I'm going to use in place of brown for me, because now what happens now, if I'm going to use this petal dust brown, it has taken up a lot of water, right, on that practice sheet that we've done. I don't want to add now a lot of water, so that is that it has some reddish brown and maroon. So I want to add a little bit of yellow also to it. Just take a little bit of it. It is okay to go a little lighter. I'm just adding that only on the bottom. Okay, and some orange also. Let me just add orange back. So I just touch a little bit on the tip, some water. I kind of color up the whole palette at the end. I just don't leave out any empty spaces at all. So what I'm going to do, just go on the edges. Okay, now the next question that could come is like, it's on the sheet, right? So you're just turning. What would we do when we're doing on the cake? It is a little tricky, but now when you actually know that you can't move, you hands will actually move for you. So when you do it on the cake, you will actually be surprised because you will be able to do. So that was orange, right? So now I want to do one more darker, which is that Bodax, which is the brown thing that I'm using. Very thin strokes. I haven't touched a lot of water. Okay, now I just wash it off and kind of get it off a lot of water. I don't want a lot of water in the brush. Now I just try to blend the color into each petal. So I still leave a line of the darker line there, and there is yellow also, so that one side gets darker and the other side remains yellow. Now when I'm doing, if my brush doesn't have enough water, then I go back and touch. I'm just removing off also all the excess water. And as I said, if you are getting that outer layer of the fondant, like kind of getting too candy-ish, you need to be sure that remove that off, because it is just going to be lying there. Some more orange, touching a little bit of orange, and if you know that that's a lot, just touch a little bit and come out, wipe it off, and with the liquid try and blend. Maintain your strokes. So I'm just going to leave that flower, let it dry, and quickly move on to the next one. That is complete yellow, mixing with water to make it light. First cover up, because that is the lighter most shade. So if you are using a pink flower, what do? Use the lightest pink and then cover up. And then start using the darker shades of the pink. What do you do for the darker shades of the pink? You don't use black. You can use a bit of red. You can lighten that pink using a lot of water, or add white to it. Going back to yellow. So because this is the lighter shade, my outline of every petal is still visible here, right? So I'll see how much of water is needed. And also now I'm kind of going to speed up because I don't want to keep boring you guys with the strokes. So if I take a little more time, like how I've taken the one that I've painted last night, it could turn up that way. But this, I'm also watching it through the cameras, no, mobile's camera, and I'm also watching it through real, and I'm doing it little fast. So I'm just, it is a surprise for me as well what is going to be there at the end. Is it going to look good or not? I'll have to check at the end. But if I keep fretting about this going to look good, it could eat up time. So basically just trying to understand the strokes. So now yellow is all done, right? So we touch up a little bit of the orange. So what I want to do, only on one side. That's orange. This is touching water. I'm not sure if it is in the frame or not. And now I will use that brown. If it is too dark, I will mix it up with a little bit of orange. Remove off excess because that is dark shade. You have to be very sure. Start with a really lighter tone. It is kind of too dry, so I'm just touching a little bit of water. Go to just one side of it. I don't want to add water into that whole thing. I mean, these are like not very expensive brushes. I really don't invest in a lot of expensive materials. I kind of stopped procuring stuffs long back. I just kind of use what is available. The results will be a little different because if it was a very thin brush, the strokes would be better, but that doesn't matter. When I will just kind of use this to get the desired result that I want. Okay, so now I've added all the darker shades. This is that part of the calyx darker. Now I've added all the the different shades that I want. Now water, I'm just kind of removing off the excess water just in case, because you don't want to end up adding a lot of water. So I'm just kind of blending it with every petal. So the orange, brown and yellow, they all have to be there, but then the strokes shouldn't be seen separately. Like you shouldn't be seeing a brown line separately. The brown and the yellow and the orange, they all should look mixed up. And say if you've lost a lot of yellow, what do? We go back and add some yellow, but then I haven't lost a lot that I see right now. It looks good. Okay, so you see this part of the yellow is all essential. I purposefully left all of it. Say suppose here in this the yellow seems a little less. Now I don't want to touch this anymore. It looks good. Here maybe a little bit of yellow. So I will also show you what you can do if you've lost a lot of yellow. You go and touch some yellow back, remove off excess. You don't want to overdo. This is kind of good, but you're just trying to touch up. So kind of lost yellow. Touch yellow only and go on top of it, for which that has to be a little dried up. I hope that this petal happened good for you to actually see what happens. And so what do you do if you've kind of added in a lot of yellow at this stage? Is that a mistake? No, you can still correct it. You can again go back to that darker shade, but not without a lot of water. Touching up the darker shade. Just make sure you're just touching a little bit on the sides, leaving out the yellow. So done with that. Now let me use the petal dust itself, because I also have the green gel colors, but because we have, so what do you do with the dried up dusts and all? You can still use. Okay, let me just check for the stroke, because it's dried up, right? So what do? I get my practice sheet and test if I'm happy with the color. Looks fine. Okay, so I just go on just that lighter shade. I'm going to do one more darker shade on top of that. And is it like too light? But it's okay. You do too light, it's actually fine. So I'm just going to cover up the leaves, because a darker shade will come, and that will give a little bit of depth. So we can go to that shade itself that's dried up, because it's drying up because it is from the petal dust, right? So just make sure no excess water, just removing off from the brush. Here I'm just going to be a little careful. I'm not going to override all the lighter green that I've done on the stem and the leaf, but I'll just leave a little bit of the lighter green to show while I'm doing the darker lines. So that dark shade was with black petal dust. No, yeah, it has also some black petal dust, black gel, and green petal dust. So I'm just keeping the darker greens on the edges and in the center vein alone. Okay, so now on top of that, you want to let it dry a little bit, and then just blend a little bit. And if you feel the center veins are just disappearing because you're doing this last bit of blending, you can add that line one more time. So I'm just going to add the center vein. So I'll be done now with this. We just kind of compare what I did yesterday, and now I just kind of done it a little quicker than what I actually did yesterday. Okay, so now I just I'm going to read through the queries. Colors you're using, Riti, you can kind of watch the whole thing. I've explained different colors of petal dust, gel colors, airbrush, luster, all that I've just spoken at the beginning of the live. It's pencil good to trace. It doesn't have lead basically, so pencil is that one layer of pencil outline is fine, and it is approved. What size brush you're using? In fact, they're not really. It says 3. 3 is the size of the brush. Is there any way we can trace the design on the fondant, ma'am, for beginners? Okay. So now with this, I just quickly run through a bit orally that I also said. I just removing it off. How to quickly trace it? I'm just going to orally also say and just show a little bit of it, so if possible you guys can understand. So as I said, first you need to resize the image, right? Resize the image, and you need a thermocol sheet, but this is actually maybe enough. Okay, so you need a thermocol. You place the resized image on top of the thermocol. Okay, and the outline. It is a laborious process, and what do? Use a sharp pin or something to go poke holes very next to each other on the outline. Okay, if you cannot freehand draw, for which this image should be resized. That's why I'm insisting on that. If you don't resize and have such a big image to go on to trace, so when it's not just this outline, when you want to know where exactly each petal goes and ends, right? So you need to start from the bottom, go on in between. Say if you are doing a face, then you need to poke on through the edges of the nose, the lips, the eyes. It's just not the outline of the face alone. I just skipped the stamen part here. I'll just do only for this flower. If it is closer, the better. You will be spoiling off the thermocol a bit, but that's okay. Okay, so you should be doing this to the entire sheet, okay? And then what do? You drape your fondant. Is that sheet? I'm just putting it upside down. It's kind of dirty. So what you do, now you have it here. The holes are just a guideline. So you poke it again, then you know where exactly you need to poke. And the hole is already there. So you kind of, it is laborious, but then, well, if you cannot freehand draw, this is kind of inevitable. So if I keep poking through all the holes, it will be it is going to waste up you guys time watching it. So I'll just finish off one petal and show you how it is on the other side. So this you need to be doing it all over, and when you remove it, you see, so this is actually what I poked, and this is just an impression from the back of the paper. Okay, so this, with that alone is not enough. You will not be sure where exactly it has to be. So this is the outline. I think you can see it clearly. That is the outline we just made. And this you need to do when the fondant is soft, which is like after you've draped. And then what you do, you can leave it like that or use your Dresden tool to go on, join the dots. And if you show, if you show that you're doing the step, like you cannot be like random. You need to pay attention to even the smallest curve and all that, because you're trying to trace the image when you want to be as close to the original as possible. So likewise, you kind of get the entire image and hope that gives you a bit of clear idea, so you can just do it to the entire image. Anything else? Cartoon figures as well. Yes, you can paint cartoon figures. You can paint anything using that phase. Look for inspirations for acrylic painting. And if you're very specific about lotus or water lily, then you just go and search for water lily paintings. And pond, water lily in a pond painting, or a waterfall, or a landscape, or a sunrise, or poppy flower, or things like that. So look, go around and then say simple watercolor painting. Also, you can search for simple acrylic painting, and then if you find something that is very inspiring for you, then look for have your keywords. We just got stuck. Have your keywords even more specific to search. Okay, so I'm just looking for any other airbrush colors too. Yes, you can use. Diksha on Instagram is asking me airbrush colors. Yes, because that's what I said on the initial thing. And Instagram users, you can look at Facebook. The lives will still be there on the Facebook. So this is what I did. It's just not bad what is done on the live. It's kind of too close to the original, right? Can we paint and drape, ma'am? Yeah, no, you cannot paint and then drape. What you can do, if the painting is going to be on top of the cake, then you can have a round sheet, paint it. Actually cut it to the size of the top of the cake, paint it, and then just gently take and place it on top. If you drape it, it is going to stretch and it will not work. How to paint on whipped cream cake and what colors to be used? Liquid colors. If you have only gel colors, mix it with vodka or any liquid substitute for vodka, which is Everprix. Freeze the whipped cream cake like for 4 hours and at least minimum, so you know that it is kind of really very set on the outside, and then have the color like in a very liquid form, and then use your brush and with a feather touch movement paint on the whipped cream cake. How to paint on whipped cream? Any specific painting brush you're using? No, I'm not using any specific painting brush. I just explained when this doesn't even have a brand. I buy brushes, a lot of brushes, but not too much, and I don't invest in very expensive brushes, and this doesn't even tell the brand. Okay, they're just mix up of different brands, local and the good ones, but it doesn't matter. I use whatever brush I just pick up, and I see for this one, it has to be like kind of a round brush, and say suppose there is this called the flat brush. I'm sure that I will not use this, because they're very close strokes, and you want to go around and use your brush like your pen or a pencil, right? With this you cannot do that, it is kind of too flat, so I will not pick up a brush like this. So choose between a round brush or a flat brush, then round brush. Brand doesn't matter. Sizes, well, you can have from, you get one set, it has from 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and all that together. Then for bigger places you can use bigger sizes, and for smaller areas then you can use a smaller size. Can we use gel colors? Yes, I have used gel also. So this one has a mix-up of paste, gel, petal dust and all that. Okay, so all that is explained the beginning of the life. Lead is considered as toxic metal. Lead, the pencil doesn't have lead only. So yeah, using pencil is having a graphite, and that one small layer of pencil doesn't matter. But as I said in the beginning, if it really does matter for you, you need to be using a Dresden tool to transfer the image, and you need to do it immediately when the fondant is soft. So it is, you can choose what you want to do. How to join magazine? You can write a mail to fondbitesmagazine@gmail.com, and one of the editors will get back to you. Can we use only gel colors? Yes, you can use only gel colors instead of dust. So I just wanted to show what all works. You can use only petal dust and then paint. Doesn't matter. You can use only paste also. Mix it up with vodka water evaporates and then paint. Gel colors only also is fine. How do you store fondant? Cling wrap it twice in airtight container and then refrigerate if you want to store it for longer. Can we paint figures? Yes, you can paint figures. Same way what happens, you make figurines like say a Mickey Mouse or something, and then use the same logic, mix up the colors, and you can paint the lips, the eyes, and whatever you want. But maybe not the dress, but any accessories that you feel like you want to paint on, well, yes, you can paint on the figurines as well. Yes, you can drape the cake, and if you want to transfer the image, then transfer it immediately after you've draped, and let that whole thing dry for 4 to 5 hours in AC, and make sure the surface of the fondant of the draped cake is dried up, and then go on to painting. You cannot paint on a freshly draped cake. How to use luster dust to outline these images? Luster dust has to be mixed with vodka or evaporates, and you can just use to mix it up and paint on it. It just works the same. I'll see if I can find one or two. So as I said, I don't have vodka, but I've just got luster dust. I have always used luster dust with luster dust is a shiny version. Petal dust to look matte. Where do I add? You can't see. So I'm just simply adding it in one corner. I just do that on the practice sheet only. So that's that little bit of luster dust. I'm getting the practice sheet here. So what do I add in it? That's water, right? It gets mixed up with water also. That's all it is. Then it just turns to be a liquid form of color that you want to paint. So if you want to do it here, and depending on what brush you use, you can go on and use. That's it. It's just powder mixed with liquid. Water also works. I'm just using water on the luster dust for the first time. It still works, but all the more water needs a little more extra time to dry. So okay guys, so today whoever has done the hibiscus, well, I was really happy to see your stories and all that. A lot of you have made hibiscus. Some have made and they are drying for you to tape and show. So today just pick up any nice floral designs. Let's just start with floral designs, and you can paint, and then you can just post it on your social media and tag me so I know that you've done, and tag me in your stories so I can repost them. And you can also post it on the Cakes Unplugged by Fondbites magazine group as well. So catch you guys tomorrow by 3 o'clock on day 3 on the 20-day quarantine cake art challenge. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.